So welcome, men. I'm Brian Harold, the incoming chair to MKP USA. I want to welcome you all to this meeting tonight on an important part of the project that is important to a lot of you men. I judge it's important to all men in this project, that being men who have different abilities and how we deal with that in the project, how we welcome, how we address it. So with that, I've asked Andy Heller to give an elder opening. So Andy, please.
Thank you, Brian. Welcome, everyone. So my blessing for this group is that I, you, we witness a journey that is starting at this very moment. As you focus your attention outward with all your judgment and feelings, know that the story of I, you, and we create is the gift of projecting outward. And this allows us, you, me, to wake up inward. The journey has now disappeared for me, as it is us, yours, and my story yet to evolve or not. I am in.
Thank you, Andy. That was excellent. Boyson, I'd like to turn it over to you to introduce tonight's speaker.
Men, greetings, everybody. Boyson Hodgson, Communications and Marketing of MKP, and I'm going to introduce a handful of speakers, actually, for tonight. So I have known a number of these men who have been working on this idea of barrier-free, lowering barriers to men with all different abilities, engaging in the New Warrior Training Adventure and being connected to the Mankind Project for some time. And tonight there is a big group of them, of the men who have been championing and supporting the barrier-free movement within MKP USA for a number of years. So I'm going to call out some names: Art Patterson, Michael Bonahan, Andy Heller, who is here, Dee Spittler, who is here from the ranch in Arizona, Jeff Robbins, who is here. Who else is here? Tim Lowry is here in the room with us, and there are a couple of other, I don't see Larry's name on the list here yet, but there are a couple of other men in the room tonight who are going to do a presentation about the barrier-free NWTA and then invite us all to participate in some ongoing talks that they're going to be running. So without further ado, and listening to the dog outside, I'm going to introduce Michael Bonahan to take over. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Boyson. We also have Jim Melenos, and we have Mike Marino on the call. I'm going to actually ask Jim to start us off. Jim, would you please introduce what we're going to do today?
Thanks, Michael. Jim Melenos here. Changing the world one man at a time. Inclusivity is a core value, our commitment to multicultural awareness, our celebration of difference, that we run towards the roar, that we go into the darkness to find the light. Is there anything here that a man shouldn't do? These are incredible, incredible thoughts that the project has gifted me and a lot of us to live by, and they're challenging. I'm glad that you're here. This group of men that I am in tonight, we're glad that you're here. For tonight, I judge as a special opportunity. I'm really grateful for it. As in all good stories, this one began with visionaries and a vision. This one in 2017 to create a new type of gateway for men who identify as differentially abled. These men truly came into the fire. They came together to the center, and they absolutely created a cauldron for multicultural exploration and evolution. What started as an idea in 2017, one that manifested first as the first barrier-free NWTA in 2019 at Sleeping Dog Ranch in Prescott, Arizona, has now become a movement. the barrier-free movement, and the outreach has gone global. So tonight, these men who identify as differentially able have a gift, if you will, for each of us who identify as able-bodied, a gift of insight into their world, and then afterwards, the possibility for us to learn even more through a Q&A. We'll start with men who are leading this movement. There's a lot of leaders in here tonight in a fishbowl. So my invitation to you is to hold on to your chairs as these men claim their seats at the table. Mike Marino.
Thank you. So I invite all the able-bodied to turn off your video. And if you identify as differently able, please leave your video on. Awesome. So we've got Mike, myself, Amy, Chris, Art, Dennis, and Alan. Wonderful. Thank you. So my name is Mike Marino. I'm legally blind. I have some vision. For me, it's like looking through a toilet paper roll with some saran wrap. It's a hereditary disease, nothing I can do about it. And it will continue to get worse. So it'll be going into a straw with a thickening line of vision. It's scary for me, knowing that I will continue to lose my vision, not be able to see people's facial expressions, and then it gets worse and worse. It's been a blessing for me. It's opened up doors. I was a visually impaired athlete for a while, running the Boston Marathon a couple times. But then there's some things I had to let go. Driving, being able to walk without a mobility cane, and some other things. And it really opened my eyes because, I see men how they interact with me. I also have a service dog. And so when a service dog, people engage with me all the time, whether I go to the gym or the grocery store. But when I have my mobility cane, people behave differently towards me. They may not say much at all, or not quite sure what to do or how to engage in me without some type of fear. And I know, because I was one of those men. Before my diagnosis, I wasn't sure how to deal with now called brothers and friends, people like Art or Chris or Alan. And so I believe that there's a lot of men out there who are trying to get differently abled men into the project, have some challenges in terms of engaging with men like me and run in this fishbowl. And so we want to make it easy to be able to ask any question you want to. And so we're thinking about having some training to get men more comfortable interacting and engaging. And I want more men like me, like Art, people in this fishbowl in the project, not just in the project, but in leadership roles. And there's a man that's wanted to be here, and he couldn't. And he said, when he's 73 years old, an elder, and when he did the Barrier Free Weekend last year, he said, I didn't realize how excluded I was in life until I felt the inclusivity of the Barrier Free Weekend. And so I'm going to pass it on to the next man, Art.
My name is Art Patterson. I'm going to MKP for 20 years. And I was the one with the vision. I see my brother in Corona. We talk every day, and we talk every day about doing a weekend. A man with disabilities. It really was a sadness day because I knew that I needed some MKP brothers like me that know what it's like to have a disability. That when I talk about my struggle, they can understand what I'm going through. I'm on the council of the Mid-Atlantic, and be careful what you say, because they say, okay, you're in charge. I tell them about my vision. They say, okay, we're gonna make it happen. We had to come at, okay, we had to come oh my God, what was the name of it? My, oh my God. Yeah, talk about the name of the place. Anyway, it wasn't the ideal place. It was not the right idea. So somehow I get a hold of these speakers, and he said, "We gonna do it. I want to get the guys to make ADA acceptable." And that's when the ball started rolling. And we had some backlashes. No, not yet. No, not yet. But every time we had a no, not yet, it was an opportunity to grow. And when we had the weekend, I don't know what came over me, but I was in my power. For once, I felt that I could do this. I had my leadership. And I thank my I group, the J Group Warriors. Seven of us are here, and I thank them for the love and support. So we did sleeping down rest, and the weekend was more than I even imagined. I remember Saturday morning when I'm looking at church to step out clean, and I saw a white dove, so I knew I was doing the right thing. Since then we have a review that meets twice a month. We are hoping that the able-bodied people will reach out to the church person. You will have a son, a nephew, or grandson that you want them to have this work. He said that on the very free. I had a vision, and my vision went more than I ever imagined. I want that man to say, yeah, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna get shit done. That's our thing. We get shit done. So I will pass.
Thank you, Ward. Should another man that identifies differently able like to do a quick share? I'd like to invite Andy. Andy Heller.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Art. My new best friend, man, for over a year. Mwah. So I'm Andy Heller. I'm in Tucson, Arizona, and originally from Philly. And so there are so many unseen disabilities. I'm really going to focus on autism. So what you see and what you don't see is what you get. So what is an invisible disability? I see it clearly within me, internally. That is where I start and where I end. I create a world where everyone speaks their truth. And I do that by slowing down, listening, and feeling. That's the mission I took on about 19 years ago when I did this initiatory training that's still going on and is evolving. So figuring out that my entire life, I had ADHD and autism, but only in my 30s, the ADHD was, let's just say, diagnosed. And about 5 years ago, my autism was brought to the forefront. I didn't know it really had a name. That is, not necessarily a name, I had it, but I didn't realize that the criteria for it, I had almost all of it. And so this ADHD storm was just the rain, but having this Asperger's syndrome put me under the umbrella of autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. So the impact of my words and actions are harder to judge. So I have to be real careful and know that my intention means nothing unless there is enough context. And what does that even mean? Neurodiversity is the world we live in. Autism is actually a neuro-minority group. I am a neurodivergent person, but don't call me neurodiverse, because that will make you an ableist. So autism takes on so many forms. And I'm going to conclude with something I wrote when I was probably in 7th or 8th grade. And I just remember the title and I remember the ending. And I got it in one sentence. And it's coming back to me now over 50 years later. And it's resonating for me. And that is, the spectrum of light makes me despise who I really am in disguise. With that, I'm in. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Is there another man that identifies as differently able like to share before we have everybody turn their videos off?
I can just quickly, if you were to see me, I look healthy, I'm happy. And I got diagnosed a few years ago with something called orthostatic tremor. And that means if I'm standing for a very short period of time, my body goes into shaking. It's very uncomfortable. So you don't notice it, but the way things happen, as an example, is I'll go into a grocery store and I'll carry a stool with me so I can go down the different lines, sit on the stool, because I don't want to use the motorized vehicles, because I look healthy, I can walk, I can, all that stuff. And yet someone will come up and say, oh, that's a good idea, I should think of that. So they don't realize why I do, or I just don't do anything standing. And I'm in with that.
Thank you, Terry.
Alex. Yeah, thank you. It's a rare occasion that I am invited to talk and don't. So thank you. Like Kerry, if you don't know me and you just can see me on these screens, you wouldn't notice anything, and you wouldn't notice that I'm sitting in a wheelchair. about 25 years ago, I was diagnosed with a spinal cord injury to my neck. And it progressed very slowly over the first decade or so, and then more rapidly. It's resulted in 7 spinal cord spinal surgeries. And what started out as walking with a single cane, and I did my NWTA almost 21 years ago on a single cane, to now that I use a walker and trying to get back to 2 canes. I guess the only thing I have to say is when I met Michael Marino, and he was telling me about the barrier-free weekends and that idea, I got really excited. I did the last 3 trainings that I staffed, and they ended just before the pandemic. I first, when I rented, and the second and third, which were in Florida, at the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, I took my own wheelchair and did half of the weekend standing up and half of the weekend in a wheelchair, and had a sense of guilt because I was being helped and needed that. And the feedback I got was really touching, that men felt privileged. I guess the point is, for you able-bodied people, able-bodied men, never sell us short. Never sell yourself short, and never sell us short. And I'm just glad that to have been accepted and to be able to participate in this. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Alan. All right, so I'm going to invite everybody to turn their videos back on, if you may, and turn it over to Michael Bonahan.
Mahalo, Mike. And thanks to each of you men for your beautiful sharing. Looking forward to hearing more from you. I just want to take a few minutes to talk about the barrier-free NWTA. The barrier-free NWTA has a history, as you can see, and I wanted to go through what we've been through and what we're about. So, after a groundbreaking attempt to start this back in 2015, Art Patterson, Les Gaines, Greg Gondry, and Tim Lowry set about building a team of men who get stuff done. So they did what men don't usually do. They asked for help. In the fall of 2017, Dee Spittler, Jim Melenos, and other passionate men joined them in co-creating an NWTA that would be inclusive of men of all physical abilities. So our mission is empowering men of all abilities to share their gifts barrier-free through an inclusive NWTA experience. So what goes into a barrier-free New Warrior training adventure? Well, you need a tribe of compassionate disruptors of varying abilities who get stuff done. A diverse team of flexible leaders, an ADA accessible training site, a participant MOS team, that's a PMOS team, interpreters and other support staff, advanced staff enrollment and vetting, transportation support for men to get to the training, and a Gateway Weekend outline that is culturally relevant and inclusive. There are special coordinator roles as well. We have a staff coordinator, also a Gateway Weekend coordinator, but then we have the participant MOS coordinator, PMOS. We have to raise funds. Many of the men who attend need scholarship support. We also have to have a special transportation coordinator that's different from a traditional NWTA, a site coordinator, and obviously an outline coordinator. Let me talk about participant MOS. The PMOS team are a team of men who provide continuous support to the participants from the pre-weekend interview all the way through to integration. They're there to serve participants' biophysical and medical needs and provide mobility support during the processes. So what's it take to be a participant MOS, a PMOS man? Basically a men with ability variable experience, men with medical training, and servant leaders with huge hearts. Staff selection is quite different too. Who make good staff men? Selfless men who want to learn, men who are committed to servant leadership, and men who aren't afraid to make mistakes. Rewards are amazing, from connection with men from diverse backgrounds, a deeper understanding of multiculturalism, and a whole new toolkit on how to be an effective ally. Some of the outline highlights. So the outline is a gateway outline, so it's a little bit different. So we actually have online lead-ups, and Wednesday and Thursday prior to the NWTA, we have a staff multicultural and intercultural training, a community training for its online introduction to the multicultural work around ableism, a staff training on issues in ableism, that's a workshop, as well as intercultural communication training. We also have inclusive process timing and energetics. So we have more time for and in between the processes, culturally relevant and inclusive protocol variations, all the while honoring the empowering intent and the energy embodied for the NWTA protocols. One of our participants, Will Sykes, his testimony was that MKP came into his life when he needed the most and has created great change within him. He says, as an ever-evolving process to learn, grow, and take action toward fulfillment, MKP has facilitated a sense of direction, unlocking my power, and finding my path. And he's been an amazing support man ever since. And of course, our own leader, Art, the barrier-free NWTA is a beautiful and powerful way for disabled men to be a part of this organization. The weekend was way beyond anything I ever imagined. It was magical. I met men who faced their disabilities from a place of power for the first time. It has taken MKP to the next level. He's our visionary leader. Here's a picture of our first and only barrier-free. We had to obviously cancel and postpone because of the COVID situation. But we continue to live by our mission to empower men of all abilities to share their gifts barrier-free through an inclusive NWTA experience. So what's next? Well, we're excited to announce that we have a workshop training, interactive training called Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Disabilities, but Were Afraid to Ask. And that's coming up January 26th, February 3rd, and February 9th, at same time that this call started at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So thank you. I hope you had an opportunity to learn a little bit. And now we're going to be able to go into an open question and answer session. Jim.
The metaphor that I've heard often from many of these men that I get to sit with is there's a bridge, and often they feel like the men who identify as differentially able have to cross the bridge all the way, have to cross the bridge most of the way or all the way to come into relationship with men who are able-bodied. I'd love to throw that metaphor out and see what comes up for you, no matter what side of the bridge you identify with.
Michael, this is Ed Gurwitz. About the workshop, is one workshop with 3 sessions or 3 repeats of the same session? How does it work?
So the first workshop will focus primarily on physical variable abilities, disabilities that you can see, and the next one will begin moving into more broader aspects of invisible variable abilities.
Got it. And if one registers, the expectation is that they'll attend all 3 sessions? Yes,
obviously the sessions are free, and they're more than, the first workshop will be more of an introduction. You'll get a cross section, and then the second workshops will be able to focus. So you can attend all 3 and learn something different every time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Any questions that you've that you've carried from tonight or from long ago that you've always wanted to ask men who identify as differentially abled? There's a huge gift here tonight. I don't often see men who are not in dominant groups offer to answer questions like this.
I saw Jim Katona's hand raised.
Jim,
Yeah. So
welcome.
Dee, but I was going to do something a little different than what Jim just asked.
Go ahead,
So
Jim.
I
Take it.
have a question for Art Patterson.
And that had to do with grapefruit, yes.
Okay, brother. So, okay. So I'm just wondering if you're aware of how grateful I am for you and the vision that you've held since for as long as I've known you, and to see what's happening here today. And thank you for being the visionary that you are, and your persistence, and your passion for living above and beyond yourself, brother, and making an impact in the world. I'm complete.
I cry. You make me cry.
Your
Of course.
tears are welcome here, brother.
I want to say it was a lot of kind people. I just opened the door and a lot of your brothers
Yeah.
stepped up.
So Art, take a breath and realize that the door that you opened was beautiful, and you're looking at the result of that door that you opened, right? So thank you. Take a breath and own it, please. Thank you.
So I'm going to throw out that the project has been doing fantastic work around racism and other areas of inclusion, and various abilities is just another one we want to put out in the radar. And when other centers think about doing an NWTA or looking for sites that that are welcoming to men with various abilities, we see a lot of the same things that we that are coming up in the racial discussions. It's like, well, I'll let somebody else do that. It's not in my general vision right now. Therefore, I don't need to deal with this right now. I'll let it be somebody else's problem, or somebody else's challenge, or somebody else's work. So what we're here to offer you men is that we've got a team of men that have been working on this for several years, and we've done the test, and we're ready to do another one. And if your center or if any of the other areas have an interest to do this, we're right here. We can help you. We can answer the questions. We can give you the guidance. We can give you the support. We can even bring in the teams to make it work. Bottom line is, I've previously have been on too many weekends where we've had to turn men away because the site wasn't adequate for them, or we didn't have the staff experience that could handle a man that might have CP or might be might need more physical support. So we just want to put it out there that that's available, that the knowledge, the experience, the passion is there. So I hope that we never ever turn down another man due to either his physical challenges or, and I'll own this, in the early days of having Andy Heller in our Arizona community, we treated Andy different because we didn't know. I wasn't educated in what autism was about. It just Andy constantly landed on me like, what a pain in the ass. And until he finally owned what was going on, it made all the difference in the world. And so that's the other invitation that we continue to put out to men, is tell us what's going on. Tell us how you feel different, and let us know. And I'll take the opportunity to learn more about it myself, and let's meet in the middle of the bridge, as Jim talked about.
I want to build on that. Special needs often mean special monetary needs. What was amazing was we fundraised by Zoom. Michael and Dee, I think we came close to $20,000. Is that right?
20. Yep.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Jeff, is that right?
Yeah, Donovan Ray, we ran two Zoomathon fundraisers, and we raised, yeah, I think it was just under 20 grand in basically in 2 hours.
So there's another barrier that doesn't need to be there anymore.
The man with his hand raised. Spriggan?
Yeah, this is Spriggan. I have a question. I know, Art, you're thinking about living independently. I'd like to hear from you and maybe some of the other men. What are your concerns about transitioning to independent living? What are some of the fears or changes you're looking to address?
I guess for me, can I do it without being dependent on other people? I don't want to be a burden to anyone. I can do a lot of stuff on my own. Or I could do laundry and cook. I live in $10 and he haven't died for my cooking. Yes. I want to be independent, but I don't want to be alone. That's it's something that I inherited from my grandmama. I'm stubborn. Don't tell me what I can't do. I'll prove you wrong. And I know some people can't live by themselves. I think that's what I do. You step in. And we haven't really talked about the local I group and how are they able to handle a challenged person? Are they able to handle a person that needs like help with the bathroom? Is the place that I group is a handicap accessible? That's what I think is about I group to be aware of. Can we handle a challenge burden in our own I group? That's a real issue. I'll pass.
Thank you, Art. Thank you, Art. I think Eric Therese and his family has a question.
Yeah, hey everybody, it's Eric, Rose, and Stella. And I just wanted to say I have had the honor and the privilege to hang out with some of the barrier-free crew over the last year, and I have learned a ton. And it's been some of the best learning I've encountered in MKP for sure. It's helped me wake up to a lot of things. And so I'm grateful for you all. Just grateful to be involved and, included and to be given the opportunity to get to know you, build relationships. So here's our question. Rosie's going to ask, we want to know
what the most important thing a PMOS needs to know is.
We have Jeff Robbins, our PMOS coordinator, actually on the call. Jeff, would you mind answering that beautiful question, please?
Yeah. The most important thing to know, because I'll tell you, for me, Rose, it was scary to in the lead up to the weekend, I was thinking about all these different men with their different abilities, and all of a sudden the fear kind of grabbed me a little bit, you know, Rose, and because I thought I was going to mess up. And what I found out, not just for myself, but for watching the other PMOS men serve the men that ask for a PMOS man, is that you can't make a mistake. If you're leading with your heart and you're leading with love and service, there's no way you can make a mistake. So that's what I learned, Rose, is that I don't have to be afraid to lead with my heart and to lead with my idea of being of service. Does that make sense?
Jeff, you also did something that just broke my heart open. You created a team that held the men from way before the weekend all the way through and after, one-to-one. You created relationships that are much deeper than from Friday night to Sunday at 5. And that was beautiful to watch and witness. And
Yeah.
and part of the key to that, I think, the safety that we managed.
Yeah, thank you. I have a healthcare background, and so we wanted to make sure that it was truly a barrier-free weekend, that there was going to be no barrier for any man. And any man that asked for assistance got exactly what he wanted. Not what we thought he wanted, but he got exactly what he wanted. And to do that for men of varying disabilities, you have to get all up in their business and become their friend. There's no other way to do it. You have to have heart-to-heart connection to figure out, if you need assistance, what's it exactly look like? And how do we do that and not get in their way of having their experience on an NWTA? It was not about us. It was about them and clearing the barriers. So thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
I want to say that I do feel safe with the profession because there been a lot of abuse of children. I talked to a woman about 80% of all disabled people have been abused, especially sexual abuse. That's the one thing I love about this organization. It has integrity, and I think that's the key for men to feel safe with other men. And that takes time to build that relationship.
Oh,
Thank you.
Uh,
Yes.
Like Chris Conti?
Yeah, I actually had the privilege of being the man from the engagement. I had the privilege of being the man from the engagement team who actually called the men from the barrier-free weekend and found it a very rewarding experience to call those men. You know, a couple months afterwards to follow up. We're Andy has been when I found Andy, and I found him at the April 35th anniversary, that was the key I needed to have somebody as a backup to start something with autism, because I didn't know I had autism until 9 years ago. I knew something was off. I used to call it wrong. Now I call it different. And I've thought that actually the issue for men with this kind of hidden disability isn't so much, well, actually there's a big debate about whether it's a disability or not, as Andy's t-shirt very much comes to. but I do think it's a barrier that I spent the first 20 some odd years in MKP, felt like beating my head against a wall. And so my MKP mission is to make MKP welcoming and safe for men with autism and other social pragmatic differences, which is to say invisible things that get other men really pissed off, because I have pissed off a lot of men over the years. And I'm more interested in making sure that on regular weekends that the leadership understands what might happen, because I judge that we discourage men from enrolling in the first place. I judge that when they get to the weekend, they may get to the point of where they're usually often the last men on the carpet, because of the high level of anxiety and therefore stuckness, lack of trust.
Chris, could I invite you to bring this to our workshop? This is all great stuff, and we're at the
Great.
end.
So let me just cut it to the chase here. So my whole thing is I want to see that all the leaders in MKP and all the I groups in MKP are aware of what the differences are that could show up that make men go, wait a minute, this guy is going to be a lightning rod or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And to better understand it, when I've staffed and I've told the leaders and I've told the team what I deal with, and a man shows up with ADHD or autism, then the staff gets much more sympathetic than they might otherwise be.
Thank you, Chris.
That's it.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for your participation. We're going to close this out. I have an exciting announcement to make. That is, I'm putting on a different hat or a different shirt now for Boys to Men. And just a quick announcement to make, very exciting, that Boys to Men is having their 5th annual national summit. And you can register at boystomενsummit.org. It's sponsored by, guess who? The Mankind Project. This is our first major partnership. The Mankind Project is sponsoring Boys to Men. It also, the Coalition to create a White House Council on Boys and Men, Wisdom Windfall, and the Global Initiative for Boys to Men are all sponsors. We also have these 4 communities that are considered mentoring communities that are sponsoring the summit. And these amazing speakers, including heavyweight champ George Foreman, Warren Farrell, who wrote The Boy Crisis, everyone knows Frederick Marx, Ashanti Branch, Dr. Gail Gross, futurist. The list of speakers and presenters is just out of this world. We have a youth track. It's just amazing. We hope you can sign up and join us. It's in the chat, and we also are offering a 50% off discount code for MKP members. Just enter MKP50 and you'll get 50% off your registration fee. We're just very exciting. It's a 5-day event, December 9th through the 13th, several hours a day of programming, and it's interactive. So if you want to ask George Foreman a question or Dr. Warren Farrell or anybody, please come on and join us. We'd love to have you there.
I'd like to introduce a man who doesn't really need an introduction. Been in the project for a long time, has served. Ed Gurwitz, immediate past chair of the project. And I'm very happy to announce that he's taking on a major new task in the project on intercultural advocacy that is going to have, I suspect, a big intersection in this space as well. And Ed, I want to have you say a couple words and talk about a couple things that are coming up next.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, as Brian said, there is a new group. It's called the Intercultural Advocate Council, and Andy and several other men on this call are part of it. Someone said earlier, alluded to inclusion as a value of MKP. It's actually not. I think we're heading in that direction. And this Intercultural Advocate Council is intended to be a move in that direction. We have representation from as many historically marginalized, sometimes called targeted groups as we can. We're still looking for more. And our goal is to advocate for exactly what you saw tonight, which is the inclusion of everyone who, first of all, in the NWTA, that anyone who wants to do an NWTA and identifies as a man and is over 18 years old gets the opportunity to do it. No one should be turned away because of any barrier, including physical barriers. Sometimes you hear that MKP, all men are welcome. I don't know if that's true or not true, but as long as it's out there and I hear men say it, I want to make it as true as we possibly can. Any man who is willing to commit to our values and our mission and their mission should have full access within MKP. So along those lines, I want to tell you what's coming up next. Got to find it first, though. Here it is. Next Saturday, this coming Saturday, rather, the 5th of December, from 10 until noon Pacific time, noon to 2 Central, make your own translations, is going to be the annual meeting for MKP USA. And two important things are going to happen at that meeting. One is we're going to have elections. We're going to confirm Brian as chair for 2021. We're going to elect a new chair-elect. And we're going to elect the next term for the secretary. I figure, and while only the board gets to vote, we're going to do this in a way that if you have questions or want to get to know men better or want to let them know what's important to you, we will have time for each nominee to respond to questions and to interact with those who attend. Once that's done, and I figure that's going to take about 45 minutes, all the past chairs of MKP USA, and I have to say there are 2 that I haven't got commitments from yet, but at least the others, plus the founders, Rich, if he's well enough, and Bill Kauf, are going to do just a short reminiscence about what it was like during our terms as chair, what it was accomplished, what were the issues. Finishing with Paul Samuelson, who's the current chair for another month and who will give his reminiscence as a farewell. Then in January, part 2 of the annual meeting, Brian will call, and that will be about looking forward to 2021. So we're going to look back in December, forward in January, which is kind of the way it should be, I think. So please, Boysen's put out several notices about it. I'm sure he'll put out at least a couple more. Join us Saturday morning for the annual meeting. The other thing I want to announce is that the next Chairs Town Hall will be a week from tomorrow. Am I right about that? Or what's today?
Week from Thursday.
Week from Thursday, forgive me. And it's going to be, the subject will be Black Lives in MKP, and a number of the men who were instrumental in drawing up the agreement between MKP and our brothers of obvious African-American ancestry about things MKP is going to be doing, already doing, and going to be doing more of to make it more inclusive for those brothers. Will be presenting on that night. Jesse Wardlow is the point man on that, and I have the privilege of having been asked to participate as well. So that's what's coming up. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to all the men who organized this call, and Michael and Jim, and I can't name everybody, but Art and Andy and Alan and all the people I didn't remember to thank. I want to bless you and thank you. Your efforts have made MKP a more barrier-free place. And bless you for it and thank you for it. Good night and have a good evening.